Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a real pleasure for me to be here tonight, and I'm pleased that you have made time to join us. This event is actually the conclusion of a discussion of small business issues that has spanned 2 continents. CGA Canada and our friends at CP Australia jointly hosted a pair of roundtable forums that addressed the challenges faced by the small and medium-sized enterprise sector in both countries. The first of these roundtable forums was held last month in Melbourne, Australia. The second this afternoon here in Ottawa. This audience knows of the importance of the SME sector, whether here in Canada, in Australia, or elsewhere. This evening's event is titled Seeing Red, Slashing the Regulatory Burden of SMEs, and I'll devote most of my time to the subject of the regulatory burden. However, our roundtable dealt with 2 other SME issues that I would like to touch on briefly, as did Catherine. One was the issue of access to finance, an issue that has always been problematic for SMEs and has only worsened through the recession. One of the participants at our Melbourne forum put it quite well, I thought. He said, banks used to be lenders. Now they are allocators of scarce resources. Last year, CGA Canada and CPA Australia, along with our colleagues at the ACCA, conducted global research on the issue of access to finance. Many businesses around the world reported much more difficulty accessing finance. In Canada, SMEs say they have always struggled to access finance, and the recession has not made things any easier. They also report that the cost of credit is higher, and financing terms have actually been tightened. Some believe that this restricted availability of finance is not a short-term effect of the recession, but rather the new reality for small business. If so, then it certainly emphasizes how important it is for businesses to prepare a compelling business case for potential lenders or investors. We believe in accountants' advice and expertise to be invaluable in preparing such supporting documentation. The second issue that our roundtable discussed was the effect of taxation policy on SMEs. I don't imagine people anywhere here are really happy to be paying taxes. In recent years, the Government of Canada has made progress in lowering various taxes, and this is certainly welcome. However, tax rates don't tell the whole story. In Canada, the real issue is complexity. Canada's tax system is among the most needlessly complex in the world. By some estimates, the cost of collecting taxes and administering the system may be as high as $30 billion annually. Our tax system is difficult to decipher and costly to administer, and that has negative consequences for both taxpayers and for the government. The problems with our current tax system cannot be fixed by tinkering around the edges, which is what we've done. It needs a complete overhaul in order to ensure we are prepared to face the competitive challenges of the future. That's why CGA Canada has strongly encouraged the government to establish an independent panel of experts to conduct a fundamental and comprehensive review of Canada's tax system. A review that should be based on principles of fairness, simplicity, efficiency, and transparency. Interestingly, Australia has just completed a similar type of review of its tax system. My friend Alex will speak more about it in a few minutes. Canadians, small business, and indeed all Canadians would benefit from such a comprehensive review in this country. And I suppose that brings me back to the third broad issue facing SMEs, and that's the regulatory burden. There is much talk about the effect of red tape on business, particularly SMEs. But in 2005, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business conducted a research and put that number, as you heard from Catherine, at $33 billion a year. That's how much money is lost each year. I think she said that number went down to 31 billion, but we're talking billions. So in order to comply with unnecessary or excessive regulatory requirements. What makes the issue of red tape of particular concern to small business is the unfair way that SMEs are impacted by excessive regulation. Large businesses are better able to absorb the cost of compliance due to dedicated staff resources. Often in smaller businesses, the burden of compliance falls on the shoulders of the business owner. As a result, small businesses bear a disproportionately higher cost of compliance than larger businesses. We at CGA Canada have conducted opinion surveys with both SMEs and accounting practitioners to gauge their views on regulation. Those surveys identified a number of factors impacting the regulatory burden on SMEs. Following that, roundtable participants were asked to propose potential solutions. Among the ideas generated, some highlights included a strong commitment by government to reduce regulation, intergovernmental coordination to reduce duplication and inefficiency between different levels of government, or 3 levels of government, public consultation prior to the introduction of new regulations, outcome and reward-based regulations, which would help encourage compliance by improving efficiency, and lastly, more consideration of non-regulatory approaches. Much can be achieved by encouraging certain business practices that fall outside the definition of regulation. Now, in fairness, I must note that much has been accomplished in the past few years, both federally and in some provinces. The Government of Canada addressed some of these recommendations with its Paperwork Burden Reduction Initiative and its new budget. While these achievements are commendable, there is much work still to be done. One reform that CGA Canada has strongly encouraged is the elimination of costly barriers to interprovincial trade and labour mobility. Again, progress has been achieved on this issue over the past few years, but we hope that when the Council of the Federation meets this summer, further improvements to Canada's Agreement on Internal Trade will be made. So as I wrap up my remarks tonight, it's worth noting that confidence among Canadian SMEs remains relatively high. Progress has been made on some issues of importance to small business. However, the 3 issues we have focused on today, access to finance, tax reform, and the regulatory burden, are long-standing problems that are with us through good economic times and bad. Continued advancement is required on all 3 of these issues to ensure that the economic recovery continues. But more importantly, progress on these issues will help position Canada's SMEs to meet the competitive challenges of the future. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention this evening, and I look forward to your participation in a few minutes. Thank you.